I'm making this tape so that it will never be said that I am the one who's neglecting to address murder for sport. There's no town hall in Seattle where a person goes forward to discuss murder for sport. Yet it has become common enough that the sheriff of King County, of Pierce County, has discussed openly what he called fight clubs. In fact, I didn't know that term, but the reason I was banned by Al Soma, who is supposed to be an advocate for the disabled, and I'm deaf, from Seattle Community College, which is supposed to be open to anybody who's responsible and able to pay tuition. Um, Presumably, it was because I wrote some notes to their union warning them that there was an organized godfather of sorts in administration targeting innocent people, innocent for sacrificial homicide. And then Shannon Harps was murdered. And when I got angry, I was taken into custody by a gang administratively who also then poisoned me in the mouth. In fact, Jay Inslee, I suggested and sincerely believe, was appointed by the administrative custodians of our affairs because his name implies innocent in slay. And it also has sin and Robert E. Lee in it because they attacked um, sin through the AIDS attack, and then COVID was 6 feet apart or 6 feet under. And having bombarded us with sex, drugs, and rock and roll, they now want our media fingerprints to prove that we have had sin on our minds so that we can be annihilated in the terms of Adolf Hitler. Of course, it's not Hitler's Germans alone pulling this stuff. The Israelis have a broadcast syndicate that allows or disallows um, pot boiler tall tales. And because of what happened to them in the 30s, which was odious, they have a free pass to do it to other people. An example of this were the Burston letters, but another example of this was John Schulman. Even after his gang chased me out of town, the Ryan landed in Seattle, and their fabulations were played to chemically castrate me. And my deaf advocate was attacked and raped and so forth. The various things that you learn to expect from the Green Party, who murdered my father. I mean, John Schulman's little gang included Mike McGuff at the Pittsburgh Post Gazette. And after my father died, they put the rubber stamp of the people who murdered him on the back of his obituary. Anybody can find it in files and turn it over and see what they did. I mean, it's commonplace. And like when the post office followed my letter to Courtney Kennedy and murdered two more Kennedys, they had a post office school from Fountain House beating the drums of the clubhouse in Seattle's love slavery for the Jewish community. Oh, woe is me, they went through the Holocaust. So that means they get to murder. They get to rob the museums. John Schulman gets to defraud the post office. You get the idea. And nobody can do anything about it, because the Godfather will fix your wagon. The Godfather will fix your wagon. So, for dialectical money hunger, they select that you like what the way that they tortured me. They kidnapped me, gassed me. They sold images of me in child molestation condition to millionaires who had hired them to do this to me. And then, probably the primary offenders are now under contract to Oliver Stone and Elaine Musk to broadcast on a distant day why they did it to the queer ball, because Pittsburgh absolutely hates me. Seattle only tried to murder me by poisoning me in the heart, but Seattle, it's like second fiddle when it comes to pure, unrivaled, brutal, murderous hatred for me. And of course, they have all these pornography films in their licky chops, and it's an experiment. We'll take away the queerbait's rights, and if he argues with us, we'll poison him. Yeah, they gave me scabies at one point. They poisoned me in the mouth. And they say that, get this, they say I had the IQ sufficient to understand the letters that they deny say what they said. In other words, because I went and tried to get help from what these murderers were doing, I failed to understand what their letters about what they were doing were saying. I'm the only person who ever tried to come forward against Gail Burstyn, the only person. Her forces line the corridors of the Eurogoblin situation, who's always pulling America by the tail and telling us what to do. They overthrew NATO. We're not leaders of NATO. Chomsky's a fool, or a liar, or a psychopath, or a godfather himself. America's not in charge of NATO. Neo-NATO is a French and German concoction with Putin on the phone with them all the time. And Israel in their cabinet and stuff. Just America's just a puppet being, abused by these tyrants. And Hollywood acts as Hollywood serves them. I mean, Ukraine, everybody knows Ukraine is mysterious. It has nothing to do with us. That they have a virtual draft. Did you memorize the lines that Churchill taught you? Or if not, you're a pinko. I mean, they're using the Ukraine as a parameter to institute mind control. So it was all to get beyond COVID-19, change the subject. So, these remorseless psychopaths just bump off people and say that was a token. And a good example of this was Helena Shaker. You try to cooperate with the authorities, try to cooperate with the culture, like Black Lives Matter. Yeah, I remember when I went to the police because 2 packs of cigarettes, and there was a black man coming into my house all the time. By what right did they construe this as a white on black crime that they go out and kill Lena Shaker? That's the thinking process that's inculcated into them, because what's really going on, this is the Trumpy two mutinies are just hitting a pendulum back and forth. Dong, dong. We'll kill this one. We'll kill that one. Dong, dong. And it's administrative. So there's no town hall to talk about murder sports. They mutter things about fight clubs. But the students go out and just sacrificially murder people. And this emerged from, the gall of their administrative leaders to say this is to protect the poor is really something else. Because it emerged from the very rich, Eurocentric, psychotic areas like UW Dialectical and Carnegie Mellon University, the people who had tons and tons of money to blow and no remorse about poisoning our culture. The University of Pittsburgh is a classic example. Mark Nordenberg was warned over and over again that the child of his senior faculty was tortured. He said, no, you're saying there were Jews involved. So therefore it didn't happen. Therefore the most despicable, genocidal, hate, vivisection, evil acts couldn't possibly have come from the mind of a Holocaust child survivor. Would say that's the only place you reasonably look for a motive. But Norman says no. John Schulman wasn't stealing no books from no exam. He's under house arrest, of course. I mean, I don't want anybody put in a prison, but he, of all people, gets put under house arrest. And I, who was victimized by him, and constantly being targeted for poison crimes and abuse of my mind. Like, for example, I know for a fact who was coming in and out of my house, leaving 2 packs of cigarettes and so forth. With pit football and Steelers football. One was black, one was white. Okay, and they were the ones who were doing this, and they were acting on together, and they were doing it for administration. And the poachers like Howard Lincoln, he picks and chooses, gets one from Japan, picks one from who escaped Jamaica, he picks one from escaped Cuba, he picks one from who escaped Liverpool. Picks one and he sets up and calls it a team. Yes, it's a team. And they're not gangsters. No, they're um, uh, team cribbies. Yeah, you know what I'm saying. They work together. You see, so it in their mendacity, an innocent black person for no good reason whatsoever gets killed by somebody who has nothing. Gets killed by somebody who has nothing to gain from it. Just it's a symbolic thing. And somebody who's completely innocent gets set up as a witness so they can kill someone else who's completely innocent. See, and they say it's because it's white, and you're supposed. And then they say you didn't. Why didn't you tell us? You lack discretion. You're supposed to divulge. Why didn't you talk to somebody? This is one of the big con jobs of all time in Pittsburgh. Con job of all time. They said, why didn't I go to the police when I was tortured? I went to the police constantly. Every time one of them made themselves available, I talked to Dr. Marshall, said the gang was going to kill me. Can you read my lips, Bush? They were going to kill me. And I went and told the principal, told them that they were stealing from the school. Got what they were stealing returned to the school, was identified as a snitch, and they were already kidnapping me, waiting for me in stolen cars outside school, and I disappeared for a month, and nobody came looking for me. They used nerve agents on me. And Bush is saying he should have been a child soldier about it. What do you mean, child soldier about it? I was a 98-pound honor student. And did you care that my father was a medal naval veteran ever? No, no. Only when you then therefore declared me a secret agent man. Man, tell the name he's the secret agent man. The funky chicken. Yeah, the funky chicken. I mean, this you've psychologically you are so hardwired out into the Warpo world in Seattle. These people in Seattle who are watching me right now, but they don't tabulate on the register of watching me right now, are so wired out into the Warpo world that they actually not only believe themselves that they're shadowboxing some phenomenon from their own aids. I have to clear the air of my maniacal aggression, so I'll kidnap a girl and get her killed, and then we'll blame the queer bait, and this has gone on and on and on and on. And they say, "Oh, I'm paranoid schizophrenic." Nothing to do with paranoid schizophrenia. They had a look-alike of the man who stabbed Shannon Harps to death inside Sound Mental Health to gloat. Which one of us did it? Which did it? Which devil did you see, Queerbait? And Inslee's into this cocking around from the penitentiary system's psychiatric institutes. They had Gottlieb. Gottlieb is an infamous name. Noah Gottlieb and his father is an infamous name in CIA and Mount Desert Island is where Caspar Weinberger lived. And I met him. I was introduced to him, and Noah says you can't meet him unless you've killed 5 people. And Watmaker was in Attica State Prison. He's the one who set me up and got me inundated with, you know, um, situations where I was used for sex as a very, very, very young child. So they have all the, this nightmare thing going where they're making the walrus, they're cooking the walrus, they're cooking turkey, Paul Renko used to say. So, and then they set up Leslie Katz, and Leslie Katz, I'll put it to you on tape for once and for all. I was giving her oral sex for hours every night for months, even over a year of it. And she never, never encouraged me to make love to her. She left me unrequited. She was still a virgin when we broke up. Okay. And this, Flippy Tune said, was rapacious, which meant like rape. It's like a student holding their hand up to annoy the teacher because they have a question. Can they go to the bathroom? Or question, what year was Barbarossa again? And Fripp says the student puts up his hand to ask a question. That's like rape. That's like rape. Soon to be another ice age. Okay, so, and they have Leslie who looks like a mouse in the letters, which Leslie did look like a mouse. She was a partner of John Schulman. She was set up Jabberwocky, yada yada yada, yada, with the brainwave sonar that the royalists from Senegal came when England and Africa attacked America to get control for neonato and targeting the secret agent man that Bush set up, man, the funky chicken man. Okay, so you have the situation where she has clarified herself as a partner of Gail and Leslie Lines, Gail and Leslie, and of John Schulman. And she was Flippy Tune's causes belly. She was red haired. She was born in Australia. So she was Arnold's daughter. So you have Arnold Schwarzenegger using these little girls to play his battle hymn, and he gets on the air saying, "Oh, Russia, don't go to war." My father was in the Gestapo, and he felt that guilt. And Oliver Stone runs over to Putin and say, "You got your lines?" And then they're threatening everybody with nuclear bomb. They're going to nuclear bomb. And what did they do? They keep upping the ante. Truman, they say I'm the Truman Show because the people who attacked us with AIDS have a brainwave sonar. Okay, so they America pushed the button and set a precedent for pushing the button. That's why that's why an international consortium avenging the Axis for fourth dimensional Ouspensky gets to kill John F. Kennedy. Okay, so he was executed. He was executed by the Axis intelligence higher morality of the saintliness of Hitler Reagan. So we know that. So JFK was killed, executed, because something had to be done to assuage the Taliban of the Mysterians in Japan. So and that worked. That worked. Hey man, nobody cared. Nobody cared. Who cares? Mick Jagger made tons of money sleeping with all kinds of girls. Even in his 80s, he's sleeping with girls, with different girls every day. So everything is fine and lovely and wonderful. But the world is a blank check that is still owed to Yoko Ono because of John Lennon pulling his Houdini. And who didn't save him was that funky chicken. Oh. So you have this whole thing is set up for mania about getting even for World War II. Never ending mania. Hold on. My father even said the people on the ship felt funny about it. I mean, they didn't know it was going to happen. They heard about it and it was explained. And Noam Chomsky says nobody felt any guilt. My father was concerned. Okay, so you don't need to put it off on me. I've lived without weapons, and there's nothing they're saying. Oh well, you don't have the right until you stand up for yourself. Until we're going to superimpose the Ukraine on you. We're going to superimpose Ukraine because you owe to Mother Russia to sacrifice yourself to the higher authority of getting even for the Japanese Taliban. And they can't stop themselves. They're voodoo obsessed with this syndicated pseudo psychology. and it's administrative. It's administrative all the way up to the gubernatorial system. There's a walkie-talkie citizens band show that goes on with Tulsi Gabbard. They have students who chase the mailman, play follow the mailman, deliver it with a homicide. I mean, what gives with this stuff? If you walk into the public schools in second, third grade, I guess, and start telling students, there are pimps in these woods. And if you get involved sexually with somebody, they're going to pimp you and shadow you, and they're going to walkie-talkie you and blackmail you and start whisper campaigns. And they're going to tell Burmese monks in higher education what you did, and you're going to be answerable for the fraternities who are whacked out with Trumpy-tune Putinese ideas and right and wrong. Some of these students might think, well, what business is it anyone? Well, consensual sex is important after you're married. Consent to be married, and you would have what's known as like orderly sex education. So, and the reason why that's not in the cards is because of the pussy ball. They want a fight club. They want to fight. They like the system of keeping people in the dark and manipulating them. And then, play peep, 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 peep. They like that system. They like that system better than protecting the young. And one of the ways that you can see that is by the phenomenon of the absolutely deranged mania, the way that Robert Fripp insulted the intelligence of every man, woman, and child on earth. You can see the trauma, not just in my uh, facial nerve, but in my countenance, in the pictures that surfaced of me as a child. And they say, oh, no, because that's traced to an enzyme that was documented to have been given to me by nightmare weasels from the Israeli super right wing. And they say, that's worth money. That's worth money to the black man. That's worth money to the black man. You're not special. You're not special. It's absolutely horrendous poaching. I don't understand how they could take themselves seriously in communicating to me that I have some kind of moral responsibility to come into their horrible city for any reason whatsoever in the name of volunteerism. You expect me to volunteer? We don't live in a slave society, Dombrowski. You motherfuckers, I'm having tremors in my arms and legs from the way that you torture me. I have a heart problem and the electrical circuitry of my heart because of the way you poison and torture me. After you said that you would help me, you lured me here claiming that you would help me, and then you poisoned me in the heart. And you've just been playing murderball. If you don't think I have tried to deal with this in a responsible way by addressing it as a scholar, replay the tape.